We're back. It's rebooted. Welcome back to the Wrestling Wrap-Up. It's your hosts, Tricky and Thomas from the What's Your Bliss podcast. Welcome to the show. We're here. We did it.
We did it, everybody. We are back, ready to wrap it up for you.
Ready to wrap it up. So, for those that are unfamiliar, I used to do a weekly wrestling wrap-up on Offended's network, back in the other network that won't be named because I don't want to give them any credit because they suck. But now here on the Anything But Credible network, Offended and What's Your Bliss presents the wrestling wrap-up. We don't know if it's going to be weekly yet. It might just be bi-weekly, might just be once a month. Who knows? Might be 3 times a week. Who knows? Just depends on what happens.
Exactly right. We're flying by the seat of our pants and hope you are with us doing the same.
I'm just happy that, like, for Offended's sake, I can get away from the stigma that Offended's a wrestling podcast.
Totally.
Like, this could be your one-stop shop for all things wrestling, and on top of it, this will be Anything But Credible's first YouTube podcast. So every episode will be on YouTube.
I'm pumped. Other than I told Tricky this morning, I told you I'm gonna have to brush my hair every time we do this, which is unfortunate, but we'll make it happen.
We will. We definitely will make it happen. I was trying to grow out my hair, but I think I'm gonna get a haircut this week. It's just
the beard looks amazing, though. I'll tell you that. It's
driving me crazy.
Very jealous.
It's driving me crazy. It's too much. Even though I was thinking about like shaving it, like to where it's like the old 03 Jericho look, where he just had that long ass goatee.
Love that.
But yeah, to find this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on your normal podcasting, wherever, like Apple Music or Spotify, whatever, we can find us on YouTube at Offended Pod. I was thinking we should just get an Anything But Credible channel going.
We really should.
Just everything on it.
We really should. I'm sure the boys would be down for that for sure.
Definitely. They're gonna be so jealous that we have the coolest podcast. Especially that asshole Denny, who's probably rooting for the Rams today because he loves Stafford.
He's definitely 100%. His Detroit blood won't let him root against Stafford, even though he knows it's the wrong thing to do.
Oh my God. Fuck the Rams. Obviously,
for those of you only listening to the audio, I am wearing my Peter Warwick Bengals jersey, ready to get it going. This is the first jersey that I bought with my own money when I was in 8th grade, and I'm ready to rock it for the Bengals today.
And I am wearing a cut-off Wu-Tang Clan tank top with my 4-inch pythons. And
that's right.
But yeah, happy Super Bowl Sunday. Obviously, we're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday. Let's go Bengals. Let's rule the jungle. God, that'd be so awesome if they won.
Yep.
But this is a wrestling podcast, and we will just discuss the major topics that happened during the week. If you're here for WWE stuff, you're shit out of luck. We probably won't be discussing much, if ever, anything about WWE unless it's obviously like WrestleMania or something like that. But, I mean, it's just so bad.
They did this to themselves, Tricky. It's not, we would cover them if they were good.
Right.
They've done it to themselves. They don't care.
No,
so they're making record profits and putting out the worst product they've ever put out. So, yeah.
I will say that Drip God Rollins, though, is amazing. That's like the one thing that hitting
still
home
the best.
Run. Yeah, by far.
Yeah. Him and Bobby Lashley, I would literally watch an hour of them just trying on fits. So if we can make that happen, let's just do that.
Oh, shit. So, in a nice little segue here, recently on the Pat McAfee podcast, Seth Rollins is on, and Pat McAfee asked him who is his Mount Rushmore of wrestling, and Rollins actually said this in the coolest, nicest way possible. He goes, "Are we talking wrestling or drawing money? Because in the business, drawing money basically is how wrestling gets by." And he goes, "So I have 2 different Mount Rushmores." And I'm like, I've never thought of it that way. Yeah. So before we get going, since it's episode 1, I think we should just discuss our Mount Rushmores, favorite wrestlers. And do you want to do best money makers too, in our opinion?
I think money makers is a hard one to do because there's almost a proven answer, right? Like, right. I think there's, but what I thought about instead was maybe doing it similar to him, like our personal favorites, and then the people that we think are the best in the ring. what is that? I mean, maybe those match up completely, maybe they don't. For me, they match up close, but they're not exactly the same. So I don't know, but I'm also comfortable. If we want to do money, we can also do biggest draws, or biggest draws for us, like the person we'd always tune in for. I'm comfortable however we want to slice it.
I'm pretty much the same way. I think my Mount Rushmore, I mean, maybe some of the guys on here aren't like on mine, at least one of them or two of them at least, I don't think were, I mean, they're draws, don't get me wrong, but they're not like stone cold level draws or anything like that. I'll go first. My Mount Rushmore, starting off, all-time favorite, HBK, Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Number 2, Bryan Danielson. 3, CM Punk. And 4, Chris Jericho. It's funny, like several months ago, I asked you, I'm like, if you could guess my Mount Rushmore, you hit it, all 4 of them, one shot.
Yeah, it is. It was because you and I had talked about a couple of them, I think, before, but then I think it was maybe Danielson and Punk that I wasn't quite sure on, but I thought based on the other types of conversations we've had about both of them, I think we did this on CM Punk's re-debut, or his debut in AEW, I think is when we talked about it. So I thought I might have a good shot with Punk. And I think the last time you and I talked, I said I was really debating adding Danielson to mine. Mine is very similar, and I have actually I've shifted it even more since we last discussed. So mine is HBK 100%. He is it's just the greatest, man. He's definitely the person that I'll still go back if I just need to watch something. I'll go back on Peacock and just fire something up of his. Even the weirdest matches, man. I'll watch In Your House 1995 from July. I'll watch him and Jeff Jarrett. I'll watch that all day.
That's actually a really good match. That's a really good match. Nobody talks about that match. That's underrated.
Yeah. It was, and let me say, it's the best In Your House that they put on that year. And because In Your House like kind of sucked in general, like people don't remember that, but it was a really good show. My second is CM Punk. My third, he's moved up from 5, is Bryan Danielson. He's just doing the work, man. He just keeps going up. He's so damn good. And then I've been debating this 4 spot between Angle and Jericho, and I gave the edge to Angle today. Angle is just like, when he came on, it was nothing like I'd ever seen before. Like you had guys who had amateur backgrounds, but you didn't have an Olympic gold medalist. And he's funny and like everything. The one thing I'll say about WWE, that I'll stop talking about WWE, if they can just recreate what they did with Angle with Chad Gable, then they'd have money. Yes. And if they could just let him do that, they'd be fine. But Angle takes that 4 spot for me.
Damn, we almost have a spot on Mount Rushmore. I wasn't expecting that, actually.
Yeah,
I was totally expecting Austin to be on there, but
here's a little known fact. So I was super into wrestling as a kid, and my grandma had a daycare, which really meant that I was practicing all of the wrestling moves on all of my daycare friends. And that got me into a bit of trouble, to the point that my grandmother actually grounded me from wrestling. And she grounded me from wrestling. Okay. So anyway, I was grounded after the Bad Blood pay-per-view in 1997. I missed the Montreal screw job. And then I used to sneak watching wrestling when I could. And even like my dad would like sneak me into his room, like to watch like the last hour of whatever was on, and whatnot. But I really did miss a good chunk of 1998 specifically, and into probably maybe the first half of 99. And so it's all very sporadic for me through there. And so because of that, like I missed a lot of good Austin, right? Yeah. And so I've gone back and watched a decent amount of it. I love Austin, but it's I think it just didn't, it didn't grab me then, right? I don't even have the nostalgia power behind it like I have with HBK or anything,
right? And like then you kind of I would imagine you came back in when he turned heel, and it wasn't the same. Like he's still, now looking back on it now, rewatching some of that stuff now, it's like, oh shit, this was actually gold. But we were just so angry that they turned him heel that we didn't care. Like that actually, you look back at like the Invasion storyline, and it's kind of like, it was so shit on now. are so shit on back in the day, and you look back on it now, it's like it really wasn't that bad. Like it really wasn't. But
No,
it's like
it really wasn't. I think the only thing is they just could not help themselves, right? Like they just had to hot shot it, and if they hadn't, or if they found out a way to maybe push it back 6 months, you don't have to do it right when you do it. Because if you push it back 6 months, you still don't have all the guys yet, but you get them throughout the course, right? Let it go to WrestleMania. Let that be the thing, right?
Yes. Basically,
and
basically they could AEW it, where it's like AEW like strategically has spread out all these signings. Like, it's going on where it wasn't all at once. And I think like at WWE with that invasion angle, it just like happened. It wasn't like a slow buildup or anything. I think like Booker T showed up on a pay-per-view, and then the next night on Raw, it was like everybody was there. It wasn't like a slow burn process at all. And it's like what you said, if you spread it out, push it back like 6 months, in the middle of that story, then you get the NWO, then you get Goldberg, then you get all of these other WCW wrestlers. You Flair, you get everybody
Steiner,
there. Yeah,
DDP. I mean, you got DDP, but you get him, when he needs to come in and not, kind of in the middle of the storyline with the stalker. And
that was so weird.
They just didn't do a great job. Now I agree, like the invasion itself and like some of the turns and like just the alliance running roughshod for a while was really well done. And I also thought Austin's storyline throughout that, like him not feeling appreciated and not, that was really kind of what led to him turning. And I was like, this is appropriate. Rock sporadically because of the Scorpion King. It was a weird time.
It totally. Yeah, it was. Then you got Triple H also tearing his quad and all that. And then unfortunately, like one of the main guys, well, actually, no. I was going to say, then you had a guy like Benoit, or you can't really even talk about anymore, but he ended up, that was when he got injured too, wasn't it?
Yep. He got injured then too.
Damn.
Yeah.
Who got injured right before WrestleMania 19? Because it wasn't, because Benoit was already injured at that point. It was Edge. Edge got hurt like right before.
Yeah.
So and they were like,
when he was out for like a year, right?
Yeah. He broke his neck, I think.
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't imagine.
Well, and then going back to Benoit and the Radicals, like Eddie getting injured basically like the first night they were in there was like also killed that too. It's like, what are you gonna do?
Right. But yeah, this is what I love about talking wrestling, is that it always goes in so many different directions. That's why I think our show is going to be a hit. It's going to be way bigger than that everything must go piece of shit show,
That's right.
Got to keep that rivalry going. Got to at least name drop it once.
It's like a little Easter egg every episode. Right? Could you find where we talked about everything must go?
I'm going to have you hide like a note in one of the shirts behind you about
I love that. Yeah.
It's like Kip Sabian in the crowd. Like, it's like, where is he this week? But
exactly.
For my Mount Rushmore, like Austin, for me, Austin and Rock, I just barely miss it. They're kind of like, to me, they're always tied together to me. Like they're always, if I'm talking about one, I'm always talking about the other. Like I just don't think you can split them up, because they were so intertwined basically through Austin's whole 316 run. Like it was always, Rock was always there. And even to the very end at WrestleMania 19, Rock was the last guy he wrestled. Like they're always intertwined somehow.
No, I think you're 100% right. And like people always talk about The Rock's short run, and it's because he like debuted with them, right? And then didn't have a huge run. But Austin's run, especially if you count the injury, was about the same amount of time. And you forget that because it's like Austin had this long career in WCW and like and obviously had like a different style and all of that. But you forget that really they had right about the same run. So I don't think you can talk about one without the other.
Right. And people don't realize how good of a technical wrestler Austin used to be before his neck injury. I mean,
his reason he fought Steamboat and Rhodes all the time.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. His matches with Steamboat are legendary. I mean, I think he even has a great match against Sting at a WCW pay-per-view. Like, Austin was good, and then that neck injury changed his style to more of a brawler, which in a way fits his character better anyways. So I guess it worked out, but at the same time, we also had his career cut short. I mean, who knows what matches we could have saw, like him and Orton or something like that, him and Lesnar. Like,
for sure.
Would have been good. All right, that's our Mount Rushmore. Time for the wrap up. First thing, Just got to get it out of the way. Bask in his glory. Keith Lee finally is free, signs with AEW, shows up in AEW, and has probably one of the best showings I think I've seen for a debuting wrestler.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And it's like, of course this is the case, but man, he just looks so relieved,
Yes.
And I think that's it's a combination, right? It's a combination of being healthy finally, and it's a combination of being away from WWE, who wanted to change everything that made him special.
Right.
But yeah, man, what a debut. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also talk about Isaiah Cassidy in that match and just how much he has really improved. Like he made me think, and I always feel weird doing this comparison, but like when he flew, when Keith Lee threw him, all I could see also was Montez Ford. And I was just like, man, he's really coming into his own. And I really thought that Mark was going to be the star of that team. And Isaiah's really showing up the last few weeks.
Yeah, he is. He's showing, I think, like, no disrespect to Mark Quinn, but Isaiah Cassidy is really coming into his own. It's kind of like the Acclaimed a little bit. Like, nobody realized that Anthony Bowens was that good of a wrestler until he had that one-on-one match with Danielson. It's like, oh, he could go with Danielson. It's like, this guy's actually the better half of the Acclaimed. No disrespect to Max Caster, but Bowens could be your Michaels out of that tag team.
Oh yeah.
And same, sure. I think, with Cassidy out of Private Party. But
yeah, I totally agree. And I don't know, everything he did in that ring. I mean, he obviously made Keith Lee look like a $1 million, who already looked like $1 million. But he really sold everything. But that and the match on Rampage last week, like I don't know, like he's just really coming into his own.
Yeah, he is. He really is. How about and on Isaiah Cassidy? Every time he gets launched in the air, he does it once a match where he does this scream. I was trying to find like a compilation video on YouTube of like his best screams, and it's not made. So I need to make it and just put it up on our page. So just let that go viral. Cause I mean,
love that. Yeah.
Every time he screams, it's the best thing. I'm like, that's my favorite part of the show. Everything else sucks.
That's awesome.
But Keith Lee, man, I mean, what a debut. And that crowd pop, man, they ate it up. Like, I was not expecting that big of a crowd pop for him, like, at all. Like, and he deserves it. Totally deserves it. I think that's the most overused term in wrestling now, is you deserve it, but he totally does. I mean, you can just, like you said, he looks happy. He looks like he's free, and it's just, I'm so happy for him, because this guy is going to be he's going to be a legit star for AEW.
Yeah, I think so too. I really feel like it's and he's a guy that doesn't look like anybody else on that roster, and and frankly, even in WWE, he didn't look like anybody else, and they still, again, like, just fumbled with him, and they've been doing that a lot lately, obviously. But the only small piece of criticism I have, I really, really wish they would have saved the backstage Bullet Club segment where Jay White came in. I wish they would have saved that for right after, rather than right before. I think that pop, which was amazing, I think it would have been even better if there wasn't a tiny bit of like, is Jay White walking out here right now, since we just saw him? You know what I mean? And I just wish that they would have just switched that. Other than that, I thought it was pretty great.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. And I do agree with that. But it's like, I was reading online that people were upset with Tony Khan because they said he misused the Forbidden Door thing. It's like, doesn't that count for every promotion, not just New Japan? Like, that's what I thought. It's like, what's the difference? But props to him for just being like, hey, Jay White, do you want to come on for like a few weeks and just so we can accurately use this description, even though Tony Khan used it correctly, in my opinion. I don't know.
It's his trademark. He can be whatever he wants.
God, I hate wrestling Twitter so much. It's like, for the longest time, I was always, even though I loved Punk back in the day, I always questioned why Punk was so rude to fans. I was young and didn't really realize, like, fans suck, man. Like, going to airports at like 3 a.m. It's like, do you want to be bothered? I don't want to be bothered traveling. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't know. It drives me insane. And I'm like, and fans wonder why wrestlers hate their fans. It's because of shit like this.
Absolutely.
Or you could be like that psycho that ran and tackled Rollins on Raw.
God. Yeah.
Oh,
it makes no sense to me. I agree. Like, fans it's such a weird dynamic because fans enhance the product obviously so much. We saw that when, you know, we were in the midst of COVID and we didn't have fans, and but they also do the dumbest shit and really take away from not only the product but also just yeah, they hurt the people they say that they care about, because, you know, they just can't stop, you know, running their mouths or literally like tackling people. I mean, just last night, I didn't look into this too much, but I guess at the Warrior 19 last night, Thunder Rosa and Athena had what appeared to be an awesome match, and apparently they were shouting racist things at Athena and like other stuff during the match, just heckling, to the point that Thunder Rosa right after the match got on and just admonished all of them. And I'm like, you shouldn't have to do that, man.
No,
like, right. What are we doing?
Right. And it's like, yeah, I saw that clip of Thunder Rosa this morning of her going off. Props to Thunder Rosa. That she's awesome. She's no great, fucks, man. And she will tell you to your face that you were wrong, or like she'll just say exactly how it is. And mad props to Thunder Rosa, a person that WWE wanted to make a referee.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But it's like with the fans, it's like everybody freaking out online. It's like, it's people, I think, also forget it's like it's such a small percentage. Like everyone's like, oh, like I know I just said like wrestlers hate their fans, but it's mostly like the crazy hardcore, crazy IWC fans. But people forget that's such a small amount of fans that doesn't represent everybody.
They're just so loud. They're so loud, and they're the ones that are always interacting with people, so you just see it. But yeah, you're totally right. I mean, it is a small number of fans. I mean, the majority of stuff you're going to see, if you really like look at stuff, you're going to see positivity. But it's especially when you're at a show, like it's a very, very small percent. I mean, you talked about when you were at the show in St. Louis, and that was it Glory Pro, or I forget which show you were at, but it was but you said you had a guy that was like, you know, saying stuff, and you know, just kind of through like the whole women's matches and stuff, especially at Camilla. And it's like, but that was one guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like, it was NWA show. It was the
NWA show.
Yeah. And it's just, he kept chanting like Charlotte Flair, and it's like, you're terrible. It's like, oh my God, there's like 20 people in this room. Like, come on, dude. Yeah. Like, it's not like you're in a big arena. Like, and even then it's still fucking wrong. But
totally.
I look at those like the Jesus Christ, IWC fans as like cancel culture in a way, where you might not agree with this, but it's like those people are so loud and abrasive. It's also like you gotta like kind of ignore it a little bit, because sometimes I think they are going out of their way to cancel some people on something that happened 20 years ago. It's like, all right, come on, these guys, people can change, and it's like they don't want to give him a second chance. It's like he tweeted out something that was as a joke. It wasn't like James Gunn. It was a total joke.
Yeah,
and
no, I do agree with that completely. I think I see that all the time. You know, this whole like, it's happening to The Rock right now, right? Like they went all, you know, crazy over The Rock, you know, defending Joe Rogan, or even really what he was saying was that he was friends with Joe Rogan and he wanted to, you know, sit with him and drink some tequila with him. But they went all crazy and then started pulling up promos from 22 years ago, and it's like, yeah, man, those have been around.
Yeah, it's like everybody knew that. Like,
we know they've aged terribly, and it is what it is. Like, he's also playing a character. Like, I don't know.
And what The Rock was saying about Rogan isn't wrong, because it's like, if you listen to his show, if you listen to what he's saying about COVID, he's not saying what the media is actually saying that he's saying. He's actually saying, don't try what I tried, but I'm just trying something different, because no disrespect, I have the money to try it. It's okay. I like, if something happens to me, oh well, like maybe I can find something. It's like, what's wrong with that? I don't understand what's like, that's what the media is not telling you, is that like, he's literally like, you could just tell like it's just they're reading headlines and not actually doing the research. But then the other thing came out, and it's like, all right, God damn it. Can't say
it's like, I mean, and that's the thing is like, I always say this all the time. I used to say this when, especially when like Barack was president, because of like the stuff that, you know, like I came from a very conservative family growing up, and you know, my you know, family would like criticize him for things, and I'm like, you know, there's like plenty of legitimate things to criticize him about. You don't actually have to stoop to like like the dumb stuff or like made up stuff. Like, you can actually criticize legitimately, and we can have those conversations. And then it's like they couldn't get him on that, so hey, let's get him on this, and like
let's keep digging,
and what he said was inappropriate, obviously. Is not okay, but it's also like again, same with the Rock promos, like that's been there for years, and why are we digging it up now? Like I don't know. It's a weird it's this weird we're gonna just keep pushing every button until we find one, and
just wait until those people find the Katie Vick segments.
Oh my god! I'm surprised they haven't yet with
shit.
I don't think old Mr. Mayor is too popular right now, so I'm surprised they haven't found those yet.
Mr. Mayor, you mean the mask guy who voted against wearing masks?
That's the one. Yeah. You wore a mask for 20 years, dude.
He's over it. He's just sick of it.
Yeah, that's it.
To be fair, Kane did cut out the one part so he could breathe.
That is fair. He did wear the opposite mask for a long time.
Swerve, he was always against wearing the mask. Oh shit, we got so far off topic there. But Keith Lee, he caught. But last thing on Keith Lee though, when he caught Private Party the 2 times, when he caught Mark Quinn, holy shit, that was the smoothest I think I've ever seen somebody attempt that, and he was just like, gotcha. Mm-hmm. And that the 2 power bombs. I mean, Keith Lee is gonna be a force in AEW. If you can name 3 people that you want to see wrestle Keith Lee in AEW, who would that be?
2 come to mind. They're completely opposite to start, which is Sammy Guevara, and then the other one is Wardlow, because I love a Haas fight. Those are definitely the top 2 for me, but I'd also love to see Danielson face him. Obviously can bring out the best in anybody. Mm-hmm. I love watching Danielson face guys who are bigger than him. It's probably my favorite matches that he's ever had are typically those outside of the ones he's now had in AEW. Anything that he had in WWE, if he was facing someone bigger, I'm like, that's the one I like. That's a good one. I think those are probably the 3 that come to mind. What about you?
For me, man, Powerhouse Hobbs and Keith Lee, man, I feel like that's just money all over it. And totally. I wasn't even thinking about Wardlow. Now you said that, I think he might replace one of mine. Wardlow's he's gonna have a massive year. If you want to talk about your next pillars of AEW, I think Wardlow is one of your pillars. I think it's him, Hook, and maybe Jade Cargill. I think you have to throw in there, and maybe it's Keith Lee. Honestly, maybe Keith Lee's your 4th pillar, but
I'll tell you what, I agree with all of those, but if they also let Lee Moriarty just go, he can definitely pull his way up into that as well.
I mean, shit, you can even push John Silver as a singles competitor. You can get him over. I mean, he's a national meme now, which is hilarious.
So funny. Yeah.
I'm like, that's John Silver. I know him.
I know. I was seeing him all over Insta. People that don't watch wrestling, but doing the whole guy trying to mansplain something to a woman. And I was like, this is amazing.
I got it shown to me at a bar last night. They're like, look, have you seen these memes going around? They're so funny. I go, do you know who that is? And they're like, no. And I'm like, that's the wrestler I always Snapchat you about. And they're like, what? I'm like, they're like, he's Budge. I'm like, yeah, he's Budge.
That's amazing.
But Kenny Omega and Keith Lee, I think would tear the house down. Totally. Honorable mention, Hangman Adam Page, I think will also, Lance Archer. There's sky's the limit for Keith Lee.
Yeah.
It truly is limitless.
Got him.
Our show's going to get canceled for that joke. Another signing that AEW just did recently, which I'm super stoked about, Danhausen.
Yeah.
He's just going around cursing everybody. I love that he curses Adam Cole and it ends up being his first loss in AEW. And then curses John Moxley that almost turned the match around. I forget who was Moxley wrestling. Was it Wheeler Yuta?
Yes.
Because he started getting some offense on. I'm like, holy shit, they're actually running with that. If he curses them, they're gonna get beat up. I love it. But I'm curious.
I love Danhausen, man.
Yeah.
I do. I'll tell you, he's the first wrestler that I ever followed before I saw any of their matches. And he would pop up on things all the time that I was watching, like just little clips that other wrestlers would retweet or other, podcasters or whatever would retweet. And I was like, what is this guy? And then like the collecting human teeth, and like I was like, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And then he basically helped Conan O'Brien create the Conan O'Brien Needs a Fan part of his podcast, and he was the first one on there. And I was like, this guy is freaking money.
He is money.
And I was just so happy for him, especially after his injury, that he was able to get signed, because he was doing good things in ROH. And then we know ROH is DOA right now, so I don't know, man. I still haven't, I wouldn't say like I've watched a ton of his matches. I did watch some in ROH, but like his gimmick and just him living the whole thing, and his like Good Night Hausen podcast. I mean, he just does everything, and he's the person that like he just ran with something, and he didn't care what he was going to get from that, and has made the most of it. And now look at him.
Right. And
lots of human money for this guy.
Didn't he start off kind of like it was like more of like a serious like heel gimmick at first, wasn't it? And then he was like saying like, I look stupid, and just ran with it. And like, which
pretty
was
much
great. It ended up working out, and it ended up being hilarious. I mean, he's one of the funniest people in wrestling. If not, we may look back on this in 5-10 years and be like, he might be one of the funniest people in wrestling of all time. Like,
for sure.
He is fucking great. So at the Glory Pro show we were at last weekend, I got a surprise. Katie surprised me with like for my birthday, even though my birthday was in December, and I turned 31 this past year. This was my 30th birthday party because I never got to celebrate my 30th. She surprised me with like all my friends showing up went to a bar, knew we were going to a wrestling show, and I knew if she had a few people coming. I didn't realize everybody was going to be there. She made shirts, basically made Orange Cassidy style shirts with my face on it. Some people bought them. She was like, it was a hard sell to sell your face on a shirt. But went to the Glory Pro show, and I don't remember a thing. It got a little toasted that day. And two things I do remember, though, was the Warhorse match where Danhausen came out with them. And I was able to get like I started just doing the tequila song, just Danhausen's like theme song. I started just singing it, and I got the whole place doing it. And I got my friends up doing it. And they're like, what do you say at the end? I just go, just yell Danhausen instead of tequila. That's all you do. Like, I just remember, but I feel like I pissed him off though, because he was the manager in the match and not the wrestlers. So like what he kept looking back at us, just kept going, like just kept throwing up his arms. I'm like, sorry, we love you. Like, but at the end, walking out of the show, I like vaguely remember this. Walking out of the show, I'm just going to walk out the exit, and I walk past somebody. I'm like, oh, excuse me. Then saw that his face was painted white, not even thinking anything of it. And Katie's like, Danhausen. I'm like, oh shit. He's like, hey, how you doing? Like talking like Danhausen. And Katie's like, it's his birthday. Can you take a picture with him? And he's like, sure. Like, because it's like you're supposed to pay for like a picture with him. He had like a meet and greet, but everybody had left at that point. And I don't know if you can see it on there, but
love it. That's amazing.
Yeah. But I could just totally tell he was like, son of a bitch. Like, sorry, Danhausen. I apologize for being drunk and stupid.
We still love you, Danhausen.
Yes, we do. But man, he's actually a decent wrestler. He's actually pretty good. He's not just a gimmick, like Orange Cassidy, not just a gimmick. Very good. And I really hope that they become, it seems like they're setting it up for them to be a tag team in AEW. And if you make them those tag team champions, I am 100% on board with that. 100%. Yeah. I can't.
Well, and you know, we've talked before about like we don't understand the Orange Cassidy hate, obviously, and similar to like Danhausen, because I did see a little bit of like, who is this guy? And it's the same people who are like, why do they always sign WWE guys? It's like, shut up.
Oh yeah, they're never happy.
Like, can you imagine these fans during the Attitude Era and during the friggin' Monday Night Wars? Oh God. Anyway,
I don't even want to think about that.
But yeah, I totally agree, and to have two people who play their characters so strongly, you know, also be your champions, and they can also wrestle their asses off. Like, you can't get better than that. Like that's awesome. Hell, that's how Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, you know, moved up. Like, obviously Jungle Boy isn't as much of a gimmick as the other three, but like, it really was like, hey, we're gonna do these kind of kind of out there gimmicks and also show that we can also wrestle our asses off. And I think it's great.
I think it's great too. And it's like, this is what's great about AEW, in that obviously they're basically just PWG on a national scale now. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing, because you go back to PWG, especially during like 2016 and like to maybe right before AEW became a thing. You look at those matches and you look at those shows and how much fun those shows were. I mean, you would hear about that all the time, and you would hear about how great those shows were and how funny that they were, and they would do stupid spots, but it'd still be just an entertaining show. AEW is doing that and just doing it on a larger scale. It's like, I don't understand why WWE just didn't copy and paste that formula, because it works. It works tremendously.
Yeah, well, and when they try to even do bits and pieces of that in NXT, then they shut the whole thing down and revamped it. So it's like, well, okay, guess we're gonna do that. But again, they don't care, and why would they? They have record profits every year, and Saudi pays for half the year just with those 2 trips, and
budget cuts, my ass,
and budget cuts. Yay, budget cuts.
But it's just what I love about PWG. I don't think they get enough credit for really changing the game on the independent scene. I don't think they get enough credit at all. And a lot of it, obviously, I think still has to do with Bullet Club. Because I mean, let's be honest. I know the haters out there won't agree, but Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Omega, and Adam Cole, and you even have to throw in Hangman and Marty Scurll in there. They changed everything with their that when Being the Elite was like at its peak. That changed everything. But they were literally taking what they did on PWG, because at first it was just a travel blog, and then it's like, fuck it, let's just keep being goofy and let's keep making fun of wrestling. Like, let's not treat the fans as if like, oh, what we're doing is real. It's like, no, the fans know it's fake. Let's like make fun of that, and let's do that. And it works. It's just the nature of the game. And it's just, the more that they did that, the more popular wrestling got again. And I think at the time, and especially 2016, that was the last year, in my opinion, that WWE was actually great. Like that, the whole year of 2016 was fun. Like, that's actually fun. But they were kind of mimicking like the goofiness, especially with New Day being all over Enzo and Cassidy. Like, you had wrestlers that were goofy, like how they are in AEW, and they were really good. And then it just stopped. And I don't get that.
Yeah, and everything, like you're saying, like everything is now cookie cutter, and it's very weird. But you're totally right. If you can't figure out how to draw that line from PWG to ROH to NJPW to AEW, like if you can't figure out how that's basically a straight line, I don't know how to help you, because there's some common denominators in there, and definitely the Elite are big pieces of that. And I also think, on that note, like, I don't think that Ring of Honor gets the credit it deserves for that run of the Bullet Club. You always hear Ring of Honor get the credit for Punk and for Danielson and for Samoa Joe and for Tyler Black and all of this. But if you don't look at those 2 years that they basically had the entire Elite with them as well, and look and say, them doing just those shows just elevated, especially Cody and Cody, Page, and Adam Cole. Like, then I don't know what you're watching, because that's exactly what happened. You have to give them credit too.
That's peak Cody Rhodes there too. I mean, Cody was over as fuck during those shows, especially when he beat Christopher Daniels for the ROH title, and that was when the Revival was huge and everything, and like that. Cody Rhodes, I have to. I still don't understand the hate for this guy. I love Cody Rhodes. I don't get it. I love this guy. He's like close on my Mount Rushmore. Like, he's close. Him and Omega, I feel like they may take a couple spots in my Mount Rushmore in 10 years. I don't know.
Totally.
But it's like him in Ring of Honor, that everybody followed that story. It's like, is Cody finally going to get that world title? Is Cody finally going to do this? And it was just so good. And another thing with WWE that just came to my mind, goofiness, was Jericho and his list. Like, it's the best thing in WWE.
Absolutely. The list, the Festival of Friendship, all that stuff that was leading up to that. 1000%.
5-year anniversary today.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. They again, like they're just murderers of fun.
Right. They totally are. 100%.
It is.
Any future signings you want to see with AEW? Because it's kind of getting to a point now where it's like, do you keep signing some of these guys, or do you kind of take a break? But there's two guys in mind for me that I'm like, you have to get these guys over. Actually, fuck, there's like 4 guys that I'm like, you have to sign these guys. You got to get them. There's too good of talents. And for me, it's Johnny Gargano, Bray Wyatt, Jeff Hardy, and whenever Tommaso Ciampa's contract's up, it's like, you got to get those 4.
Yeah, I think those are excellent. I definitely like Bray Wyatt, Wyndham, for sure.
Mhm.
Like he's probably number 1 for me. I would love to see Gargano go over there as well. I don't think you see it until after the baby's been here for a little bit. But I do think it's coming. Like, I don't think that that's going to be a something that they keep too long. On that same vein, I would love at some point then, whenever the contract's up, for Candice to go over there, because I think that they'll utilize her skills much better than WWE has. And I think in thinking about, I would really, I just had it and then I lost it. I would love to see, from like the independent / impact, I would love to see Jake something go over there. I just think that he's just something that's no pun intended, he's just something that's a little different, and I think that his skill set would again like just be something that's just a little bit different than what they have right now, and I would just love to see some of that. I also did see Tony talk about this week that he knows that he can't renew everybody, right? We're coming up on a few years, and a lot of those contracts were for the same amount of time, and he's like, I can't renew everybody, and I think that that's fair. And I think you can do some of these other things, but also they have such a good roster right now, and they do use it very well because they
spread it out.
They have Elevation, because they have Rampage. Like, they're able to like really get their stars out there. But I am excited to just see some of the growth, which I think is really hard because we've been so conditioned by WWE to like everything moves like so fast, and like you can't ever get a breath. Whereas like AEW takes their time, as we've talked about before, with their storytelling, and I think sometimes it can be frustrating, especially if you don't see somebody for a little while and you're like, well, I really want to see this person like thrive, right. And it's like, well, you can if you watch the other shows and whatnot. But all of that to say, like, I think those would probably be my top picks. I don't think somebody like, I just feel like Matt Cardona is someone that maybe people would want to see. For me, like, he's just doing the best work right now, just being like the indie killer, and I just want to see him keep doing that.
Yeah, I do too. And congrats to Matt Cardona. He won the NWA World's Championship last night. Yeah. That's awesome. Like, I'm so happy for that guy. I mean, he's now officially classified as a world champion, and that to me, I heard Meltzer say that the only titles that they classify as world titles are like the Universal, WWE, and AEW and New Japan world titles. And I think they said Ring of Honor. I'm like, I think that's bullshit. I think the NWA world title should be in that same picture. I mean, that title's
the world title.
It's 10 pounds of gold. Like, that's like the original world title, in my opinion. Like, I think that should still be a thing. And so Matt Cardona, in my eyes, is finally a world champion. Like, that's
absolutely, totally agree.
That's just awesome. I'm so happy for that guy. I mean, talk about a guy that got over on his own. Basically, he is the originator of the vlogs. I mean, if it wasn't for him, would the Young Bucks have done like their thing? And like, I mean, he set the standard on how to get over it in the day of like the internet age and everything. And
100%
happy for the guy. Really, really happy for the guy. But what you said about Jake Something, I agree. People are sleeping on him. People don't know how good Jake Something is. He's always at these Glory Pro shows here in St. Louis. He's always at the indie shows here. So I'm very fortunate to always see his matches. And I was introduced to him at a local show like 3 or 4 years ago, and he did like a Falls Count Anywhere match. And that's like, seeing him do like the something chant, I'm like, he's just basically doing the Adam Cole thing, but it's so cool. Like, and he just came into the crowd and was fighting in the crowd, like taking all of our steel chairs that we're sitting on. Actually, I mean, just beating the shit out of each other. I'm like, all right, this guy's awesome. I'm a fan now. We know who this guy is, but I'm a fan. So I
unfortunately have never seen him in person, but I have seen a lot of his stuff. He's another one that I follow on Twitter of like, just like, I just happened to see a bunch of things, like a bunch of people clipping his stuff, and I was like, this guy, he just feels different to me, and he just feels like a star, and and has for a couple of years, frankly. And I want him to get that chance on the big time, because he really is good.
Yep. And he's super polite too. Super nice.
Yeah.
I was at a Glory Post show a few months ago, and I think I got a picture signed by Eddie Kingston or something. And I was like, I don't want to hold on to this. I'm afraid I'm going to like ruin it. Like so I went back out to my car, just put it back in my car. As I'm walking to my car, I see him and another wrestler just like walking down the street. I guess they were just, taking a, working out before like the show started. I'm like, Jake, something. He's like, hey, what's up, buddy? Hope you enjoy the show, man. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, he was just super polite. Instead of like trying to hide his face or like whatever, like, oh no, it's a fan. He was like, hey, like he was just all into it. Like, I don't know. You have to respect people like that, in my opinion.
For sure.
All right. Next, one of the last things of the show. What, in your opinion, were the best matches of the week?
Yeah. I thought that I don't know that this would be on everybody's, but I loved the Jade Cargill match with AQA. I just felt like it was such a showcase for Jade, and you can tell that the work that she's doing with Bryan Danielson allegedly working with her in the backstage, you can tell it's working. Not to say that she wasn't good before. I mean, she's obviously a supernatural talent, but there's only so far that can get you, especially in the ring, and she's doing the work, and it's very clear. And I don't know, man, I just feel like she's on a run, and she just keeps going up. Like it just like there doesn't feel like any plateaus. It just keeps rising, and this week was another one for me.
I literally said that to Katie the other night. I'm like, if she's this good now, imagine how good she's going to be in not only just 2 years, into a year, if maybe by next 5 months, especially if she's training with Danielson. It's like she's training with Danielson, and I mean, I'm assuming Omega's still training people while he's injured right now. But even if he's and even if he's not, you got Danielson to step in and help out now. And it's just like, I just looking at some of these people like Jericho and Bryan and Cole, even, it's like, I know, like, especially those three I feel like are the three that always talk very highly of WWE still. They're still like, it was a good time. But Jericho has even gone to say, he's like, I don't see myself ever going back. Like he's maybe like a Hall of Fame induction, I'll do it. But he's like, I'm so happy where we're at right now. And it's just, you have the freedom here. You can do whatever you want.
Well, I think he does still give them he gives them healthy criticism, I think, for sure. Like he's definitely not bashing them, but he's also realistic about like where he would be and where some of the other talent would be if they were over there. Jade talked about her interview with WWE and how that, really did lead to her not wanting to go there. I know that they're super interested in her now, but I have no desire to see her over there by any means, especially with her run right now.
Or MJF.
Oh my God, no way. No, we talked about that before. They'd water him down. It's just it's not worth it.
No.
He'd get a lot of money, but that's the only positive that I think he could have. My other two, this was a great week of tag team wrestling, which I'm a big fan of. So my other two are the Moxley Punk versus FTR match, which was
brutal. It was beating the stiff as fuck.
Yeah, you forget that Punk is in his 40s, just getting the shit kicked out of him. Right. But everybody, such a brutal match, but like so hard hitting, and not nearly as brutal as that main event, but certainly brutal. Just the pop when Moxley came out. I mean, it was like, this is what people want to see. This is exactly what they want to see. And then it made me go back to that Danielson promo where he's trying to get Moxley to join him. Like, if he can get Moxley and Punk to join him, and that is the faction now, oh my God.
I didn't even think about that. You put those three against Pinnacle, but then like you have psychopath Danielson in the background, maybe like getting pissed that they're stealing a spot. I don't know. I love the way that they're making Danielson. They're making Danielson a legit psychopath who's just, he's just wants more violence. That's all he cares about. He just wants violence. He wants to kick people's fucking heads in. Like, it's just great. I mean, American Dragon is full force and then some right now in AEW.
Yeah, 100%. I'm pumped for it. So my
Mhm.
last one is just that the Young Bucks and Roppongi Vice match from Rampage. That is Roppongi Vice is a team that frankly I didn't see a lot of. It was just like one of
Mhm.
those like it is kind of my blind spot for New Japan. I like Rocky, but he's never been like super high on my list. But I don't know, man. I thought everyone held their own in that match. I
Yeah.
thought it was a great story to tell. Trent looks like he's looks like he was made out of granite now. I don't know what he's been doing.
Right.
But yeah, it was a nice match, and it made me remember like I just missed the Young Bucks, man. I missed them
Right.
like being around all the time. It was nice to see them get a good long showcase there.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait for Omega to come back. This past week, I was like, man, I really miss Kenny Omega. And if there seems like they're building towards like, I mean, they were already kind of dropping seeds here and there with him versus Cole because we never saw them wrestle after Omega fired Cole from Bullet Club years ago and killed them off on being the elite and all that. And now Cole bringing in Jay White is just another seed being planted because that's Kenny and White hate each other. And if that's what we're going towards, if we're getting to, I'm wondering if Kenny's closer to coming back than people think, and he's going to come back at Revolution and maybe cost Cole the title, which maybe do you put Hangman back with the Bucks and Kenny there, and then you have him go against Red Dragon and Adam Cole. Maybe you bring in, because I think Roderick Strong's contract's up pretty soon too. Do you just do Undisputed Era versus the Elite? Like, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm so stoked. AEW is just killing the game right now. But for me, I agree with your matches that you said, but for me, that Texas Death Match, man. I mean, I love like growing up watching Mick Foley, like especially like the Mick Foley Randy Orton match in general is one that sticks out to me for a match that I loved back in the day. I don't like the extreme over the top like Nick Gage like style death matches. I think that's just a little too much.
Yeah.
But like this match this past week I thought was just phenomenal. And I'm always on I don't know what it is about Archer. I like him. Like it's just sometimes I just think his matches I think are just kind of just not there for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They don't always get to that next gear for sure.
Right. But this one hit that next gear and then some. This match was phenomenal. In my opinion, this is the best Lance Archer match I've ever seen. And just Hangman just going all out again. But it's his tweet afterwards is what popped
I was gonna bring that up too.
Oh my God. His tweet, he's just tweeted out, I'm sick of bleeding every month. I'm like, that's so fucking good. Hangman has one of the best Twitter games of any wrestler around right now. His tweets are golden. But I forget, what does Archer call his finishing move? I forget. It's basically the Razor's Edge.
Oh man.
But it's not. He flips him instead.
Yeah.
But that onto the steps just looks, oh my God, it looks so brutal. But if you watch that part back again, when Hangman comes down, he like I don't think he was expecting to bounce up and go off because like he kind of like flails his arms around like to catch something. And I think one of his fingers or like his hand gets caught like on like the ring or like under like the apron, like where like the bars are. Cause he was like shaking his hand and he's like, motherfucker, like looking around. Like he wasn't selling the stair spot.
Yeah.
He was like holding like his hand. I'm like, oh shit, did he just break his hand? Like,
right.
But the buckshot lariat over the ref was freaking great.
Oh, great.
I was like, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do to hit it? And I thought he was just gonna do the barbed wire spot. It's like, it's just great. It's great how they tease something and then they just completely pull you in a different direction that ends up being better. And
again, they reward you for paying attention, right?
Yeah.
And rather than the opposite, which is definitely what happens in the other company. Like, and just so like, the little pieces there, like you almost forget, because they're just going and going that you go, oh shit, what about that top rope? Like, right. Because that's gonna have to be the finish, right? Yeah. I thought it was beautifully booked and and I thought, to your point, like it's it might be the best I've seen of Archer too. I think that I used to really love his stuff with Harry Smith, but like I just thought
they were a tag team.
I really enjoyed their stuff, but But I agree. Like, I think it was one of those matches where he was able to just kick it into gear and just be, just be a monster. Like we talked about the Murder Hawk, right? Like he just gets to be that, and it looked like he was trying to kill him. So I think he lived up to his name in that match.
Yeah, he did. And what was I gonna say? Hangman's proven to the world. It's like, I belong. He's like, I belong as a world champion. And I think it's so funny. People are like, Hangman's not doing much as champion. I'm like, he just had 2 great matches against Danielson. Like, he can't do that every single week. Like, he's not, like, you don't want him to get hurt. Like, gotta be, I don't know. I just hate fans. But
he doesn't have the same, like, Omega got to do trios matches and tag matches and stuff like that. Like, he doesn't have, I mean, he could do it with the Dark Order, but like it's not the same. It's not the same as how the Elite had set that up. So, and always, like, we always know, like, booking a face champion is so much different than booking a heel champion. And so it's like, man, just enjoy the ride. Like, it's still good,
right?
And it's building towards something great. I'm so excited for the Adam match.
Yeah.
Paige and Cole, man, I'm excited.
Too bad we won't get Paige Cage. Who's the other one?
Paige.
Yeah, Christian Cage in a steel cage.
Yeah, in a steel cage. That's right.
Brian Cage's contract expired, didn't it?
I believe it did. Yeah,
which I'm kind of okay with. Wasn't really a fan, and some of the shit he was pulling, some of the shit he was saying outside of wrestling, I was like, come on.
Yeah,
come on, dude.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't. Yeah, and he, he put his foot in his mouth too when he was talking about AEW and what he was getting, and it's like,
right.
You're not where you think you are.
Right. And no, he's promo game. Like, he's not a good promo guy, and AEW was using him pretty well. Like, he was featured on a lot. I mean, he was in a fucking feud with Sting in Darby. Like, dude, you're getting used. Like, just because you're not in the main event scene, that's not, like, that's the thing I still don't get when some people are like complaining about it. And another guy's Leo Rush. Leo Rush drives me crazy because it's like, the dude has all the talent in the world. It's like, it seems like everywhere he's ever gone, he's caused drama in some way, shape, or form. And not just WWE, but like where he was before that. Like, wrestlers were very vocal about, like, careful working with this guy. He's very hard to work with. And that sucks to hear.
Yeah.
Because he's a phenomenal talent. Like, phenomenal. But I was listening to his Jericho podcast, and it's like, you could just tell the guy just thinks way too much of himself. And it's just like, dude, like, in wrestling, you got to look out for everybody. You can't just look out. I get it. Like, you want to push yourself to the top level, but in wrestling, it's mostly about helping everybody get to that top level.
Especially now, right? Like, maybe that would have that would have flown in the 80s and 90s, like early 90s, but that's not what it's about now. Like, it is it's the brotherhood, the sisterhood, like, you're together, and you figure it out together, and like you said, you elevate everybody. And if you're not doing that, like, it doesn't work.
Definitely.
Even someone like Brock understands that. You know what I mean? Someone who's painted as like this lone wolf who does only what he wants. Like, watch his matches. That's not what he's doing.
No.
And I think that's like, to your point, like, it's disheartening because, man, when they signed him, I was like, hey, this is a chance. This is a chance for him to, like, show it. And he was doing it, and then it was like, man, and I feel for him because, like, he got caught in the storm that was happening with Tony and Swole, and then it just got too much. And even if, again, I've been saying this at work, unfortunately, but there's a lot. I work with people who it's like, the message is good, the way you're delivering the message is wrong. Yes. And like, how you got to make that, like, the message is the right message. How do we just make people understand? Like,
basically what Powerhouse Hobbs, the way Powerhouse Hobbs handled that whole situation is the blueprint on how I think everybody should handle that situation. He was totally like, I agree with what you're saying, but there's a different way, like what you said, there's a different way of going about it. If you have an issue with somebody, pick up the phone and call them, or go to work and talk to them face to face, pull them aside and be like, hey, can we talk about something that's bothering me? And because he was like, Tony Khan's a guy that you can approach and he would fix it. Joey Janela is now another guy who's putting his foot in his mouth, and he's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. It's like, why are you saying this on a podcast? And why are you saying this, like, publicly? Why don't you pick up the phone and call him and be like, what's going on? Like, that's all you have to do. And that's what I just don't like. It puts a really bad taste in my mouth when wrestlers are, bashing something else openly instead of just being like trying to fix it. Like if you look at like guys that left WWE to go to AEW, they talk about how they tried to go fix it and then it wouldn't work and they kept their mouths shut until they left. And it's like, to me, that's the way you got to approach it. And it's like, look at especially Moxley. Moxley's like, I'll keep trying to do the best that I can in my ability, but like I'm leaving after this because I'm not happy. It's like, that's how you handle that situation. Like it just drives me crazy. But best matches of the week, since we didn't do this last week, we have to bring this up because in my opinion, I think this is already a match of the year and I don't know how it's going to get topped. CM Punk MJF. I mean,
so good.
It was that was pure storytelling without doing any crazy stunts, any crazy spots. That was legit old school style storytelling wrestling. Like that reminded me of an old Rock Austin match where like you don't know which way it's going to go. Anything can happen in this match. And the pop when the referee restarts the match is, and that crowd doesn't sit down for like the rest of the match too. And that's, to me right there, it's like when you got that crowd hook, line, sinkered in, it's like you got something, you're gold. And I think that just adds to the adrenaline of the wrestlers and everything. And Punk basically proved he's like, oh, I can still go for 40 minutes or longer and doesn't look fatigued. I mean, he's breathing out of his mouth more, but like other than that, Punk looked fucking like old CM Punk. It's like that was, aside from the Kingston match, to me, I was like, he's back. Like he's full-fledged back.
No, I think you're 100% right. Like we've talked about our love for that Kingston match and when we did our matches of the year, but you know, it, to me, like I totally agree. Like it was definitely a statement of he can still go. We knew that, but it's like to go 40 minutes, like that's not something like they're not asking people to go 40 minutes every week necessarily, but AEW does put on longer matches also. And so I think it was really nice to see that. It was I mean, MJF, man, he might be the best in the world. If it wasn't for Danielson, he might be. Danielson is just, you know, he's just another level. But he's so freaking good. I was watching an old clip from it was that match that DDP wrestled in for AEW, and he smacks MJF on the turnbuckle and he does like almost a double backflip, like getting hit. And I was like, you forget, and you got reminded a little bit in this match, but like he's also an athletic son of a bitch, like, and like you forget that because he's so good at everything else. But like, my God, and you saw it in the Darby match too, of course, but like he's such a good wrestler. He's so freaking young, and he just puts it on. And to have CM Punk, who like, on paper, you think, okay, yeah, the promo's obviously going to be fire. The match is going to be good, but is it going to be great? And then they just went out there and they did what they were supposed to do. They just made magic. And it was, and even the ending, like I freaking loved the Wardlow I still love the Wardlow, like slow burn. Like we know it's coming, but
that pop's
gonna
be massive.
You know, him to just go like, yeah, I think I'm good where I'm at type of thing. You know, by him helping out MJF. And to AEW's credit, like they don't show the ring being handed. It's amazing. Like, because you know, everybody else telegraphs the hell out of that. And for them to just like do it on the sly, I don't know, man. I do think that was, like you said, definitely an early match of the year candidate, but I know it's going to end up on that list one way or another for us. So yeah, definitely. really beautiful match.
Yeah, and it's crazy to also think about Punk putting over MJF in Chicago. Like that's also like MJF, obviously what he said on Dynamite was hilarious about, because I love that he brought up the fact that he was basically thanking him in the middle of the ring, because he totally was thanking him. And I love that he just addressed it and didn't treat the fans. It's another thing. AEW just doesn't treat the fans like they're dumb.
Exactly.
He addresses what he said in a heelish way. And it's just like, that works. Because WWE acts like Rock and Austin didn't have that moment at WrestleMania 19. It's like The Rock was told, you could read his lips. He was saying, I love you. Thank you so much for everything. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I just love the way AEW does their shit.
Well, and it doesn't make sense to go back to that point on The Rock and Austin, especially because like y'all pulled the curtain back on everything, right?
Yeah.
You have documentaries for every single thing. We know the real people behind every single thing, but you hold on to this like weird piece of kayfabe that like doesn't exist, rather than they didn't even have to break kayfabe for AEW to do it. Like you said, he just spun it. He just used it to spin it. The Rock could have done that too. He was in the middle of his like crazy heel run as the Hollywood guy, and he could have done the same thing. And but yeah, just almost a perfect match. I mean, really, like truly wonderful.
Last thing on this, do you think Wardlow turns on MJF at Revolution?
I mean,
because I think we're obviously getting Punk and MJF at Revolution again.
Yeah,
which I'm all for.
I feel like it almost has to. I don't know, because again, like I'm like, are they just going to keep slow burning it? Because I think they do it so well that maybe they think, hey, we can push it out a little bit, right? Maybe we go to Double or Nothing. But I also think, could you use Double or Nothing for that match, right? For Wardlow and MJF, or something that on route to get there, that may be a little soon, especially for AEW to run that match. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna say they save it for Double or Nothing.
I could see that. I could totally see that, because I think my prediction for the year is CM Punk's going to win the world title at All Out.
Okay.
So I think personally, I think you got to give him one title run. You got to give him at least one, even if it's short, even if it's for a month. Give him the title just one time, just to say he did it. It's same with Danielson too. Like the two, they don't need it, but to say that they were world champion, I think would just be another notch in their belt that they think they deserve. And
absolutely,
I think Wardlow does turn. I think because I think you slowly move Punk out of that story, and maybe you get Punk into one other story before you put him in the world title picture.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe I'm trying to think, who would you even put? Maybe you do Danielson and Punk at Double or Nothing, even, or unless you got Moxley and Danielson. There's just so many ways. There's so many different avenues you can go. Love it. I love that it's not just so predictable like WWE. It's just like, oh, it's Roman Brock. We know it's Roman Brock, because they don't even know where the other title's going.
Yeah. I think, to your point, like, that also made me go, well, they're also masters of doing things on TV too. Like they don't always save everything because they don't have 12 pay-per-views a year, thank God. And so then I'm like, okay, well, does it happen on a, maybe it doesn't happen at Revolution, but maybe something happens at Revolution, right? And then it's like 3 weeks later on Dynamite, and it's that's when the actual turn happens. I don't know, because they really don't follow the same formula every time, which is awesome. And then back to my earlier thought around the Danielson faction, I could see them, like him potentially even recruiting Moxley and getting Moxley on board, but Punk says no, right? And then, like you said, like maybe that's what Double or Nothing is, or that's what All Out is. I don't know. Like it's, oh man, I don't know. It's fun. It's a fun time to be an AEW fan for sure. I'm pumped.
Or do you do Moxley and Kingston versus Danielson and Punk?
Okay, yeah.
Because
absolutely.
It's so my god damn, I love AEW. Fuck, thank you for revitalizing my love for wrestling. Like, just the guessing game of just where shit could go. Remember, we used to do this with WWE, and it was but even back then, even like in the last 10 years, it always still went in one direction. Like, maybe we do it this way. It's like, no, maybe it's still Cena. Now it's Roman. Now it's like, it could be literally anybody. AEW's making it must-see television where you can't miss it. And if you missed just a little thing here and there, like Kip Sabian, for example, where are they going with him? You see him planted in the background of every Dynamite now. And it's like, where are they going with this? And I'm super intrigued by it. It's like, you play a game every week, like, where is he? Where you try to find him, you find him, like, oh, there he is. And then you watch that spot the entire time.
Where's Waldo every time? Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. So those are our best matches of the week. Let's wrap this up. I call this the 1, 2, 3 finish on Offended, but I think it makes more sense to call it the 1, 2, 3 finish on here. So 1, 2, 3 finish, our top 3 moments or matches, whatever it could be. Now, it doesn't even have to be just AEW. It could be anything wrestling related from the past week. Do you want to go? You want to start?
Why don't you start, actually?
Okay. For me, number 1, Texas Death Match is my number. It's the first fall. Second would be Matt Cardona winning the NWA World's Championship. And number 3, Keith Lee. He's here. Now we just need Mustafa Ali, and then the world is going to be okay. That's all I got. That's all I got to say about that. Bask in his glory. Keith Lee is the future for AEW.
Yeah, Ali's tweet bummed me out yesterday. His 2.5 years, or see you in 2.5 years, or whatever it was.
Oh my God, he's on their contract for that much longer?
Yeah, that's what he said yesterday. Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So he's gonna.
But
I mean, he's gonna get released.
He'll get out before then for sure. But like,
yeah,
when, right?
Right.
Yeah. Number one, and I feel like this is going to be number one every single time, or in the top 3 every single time that this particular thing happens on Rampage. But it's Hook. My God, this guy, he just phenomenon. He's taken to it like a fish, man. Mm-hmm. He's so freaking good.
Yeah, he is.
He's good at every little thing, and I am excited to see him get a longer match. But I think what they're doing with him is smart, and it's similar to what they did with Jade, honestly. They know how to build stars. They've clearly shown that. So I have a lot of faith in what they're doing with Hook. But Hook's definitely number one. Number 2 for me is also Matt Cardona, because again, he ever since the Z True Long Island story, like he bets on himself. And he has continued to do that, and he's continued to get rewarded for it, even if he had to take a break. I love his, and I believe it's how he truly feels, but his gimmick of like WWE was my developmental. And you can see it. You can see that that's the case. Like, he is definitely polished and fun and awesome. His match with Jordan Grace last week was great. His match this week was a good one. I like Trevor Murdoch, but there is only so much you can get out of him. But him winning was a moment, and I'm just excited for him, man. This is a guy who grew up like us. You know what I mean? Just ultimate wrestling fans, and he just gets to live his dream, and good for him.
He's the true fan.
My third moment is oh my God, the woman who Britt faced on Rampage, her twin sister's tweet. I don't know if you saw that, but
no, I didn't.
Her twin sister, what was her Robin Renegade, her sister, I can't remember her sister's name, but her sister tweets about the match. She goes, my sister is ready to lick some ass on Dynamite, and instead of kick, like, it just autocorrected, and everybody is like responding to it, including Tony Khan, who was like, I think that's a different show, or I forget exactly what he said, but like,
it's so funny.
Like, yeah, it was awesome, man. Like, just the response to her, and like just that little typo, and I felt for her, because like, you go through that, like, oh my God, but then it was like, dude, everybody's commenting on this, and it was fantastic, man.
That's so good. I totally did not see that tweet. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's so fucking good. I just remember one thing real quick. Also got a shout out Jay Lethal and Ricky Starks' match from Rampage 2 weeks ago. I mean, that was one of the smoothest finishes I've ever seen, like, in that match. Like, the way he was going for the lethal injection, and Starks turns into the Rochambeau, and that was just beautiful. And you could just tell Starks was just so amped up when he hit it. It was just perfect. That crowd popped for it. And as I know, Rampage crowds are a lot harder to get kind of going, because they sat through an eventful 2 hours of Rampage. Like, they're clearly dead at that point, but at the same time, it's like, you go back and watch these Rampages, they're getting the crowds back up, they're getting them alive again. And that's another props to AEW. That's how you win back a crowd. You don't let them just stay dead.
They're building it. Every week I feel like they just build Rampage to where it goes to a natural climax, which is like usually an awesome moment or an awesome match. And yeah, oh my God, Ricky Starks. Like, I think everybody knows how good he is, or at least they have, but just every time he's in the ring, man, he's I feel like we've been saying this about damn near everyone on the roster, but holy cow, dude, when he hit that, and you see it from every angle, and every fan is just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And Jay Lethal's another one that I just feel like I haven't seen a ton of until he came to AEW, just more time than anything. But he was such a perfect opponent for Starks, and Starks is he's just so good, man. I can't wait until he hits that next level and is main event all the time, because he really makes everybody look good too.
Definitely. And I hope, like, fans don't start, it's going to happen when fans are going to start being like, oh, they're not using Jay Lethal correctly. It's like, I think Jay Lethal was signed to help out the younger talent. He's been around forever. Like, I think he's totally just wants to get paid, and he wants to help out the future. Like, that's totally the vibe I'm getting from him right now. And I love it. Love it because
No,
he's the perfect person.
I totally agree, and that's what he should be doing right now, frankly.
Yep.
And and also if you need him to go, he'll go, right? If you need to, and he has the credibility to be in a main event. He has the credibility to, to challenge somebody for a title or whatever. But like, you don't need him there either.
Right. Definitely. All right, episode 1, the wrestling wrap up. It was a home run. I mean, we got some gold on our hands here.
And as long as my internet holds up, we are going to be unstoppable.
Oh, shit. Well, you can find the wrestling wrap up. I guess we'll make our own page. I don't know, where we can just put that out separately. But for now, it's going to be on the Offended's page. So if you want to find this show, it'll be just search Offended Podcast. It'll be a side thing. It'll say Offended. Let's say Offended and What's Your Bliss presents the wrestling wrap up. But yeah, just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, Google Podcasts, search Offended Pod. It'll be right there. You can follow me on Twitter at Trick1042. You can also follow the Offended Podcast at Offended Pod and all social media outlets as well, including YouTube, where you can find this video if you want to watch this in a video format. And Thomas, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Thomas_Ragland. You can follow What's Your Bliss at Your Bliss Pod on all social media platforms. We're on a bit of a hiatus from the main feed from What's Your Bliss, looking at doing a little bit of some changes over there potentially. A lot of stuff going on, and I was actually going to record an episode where I talked about that, and then I got deathly ill. Thankfully, not COVID. So I'm still looking at doing that, and kind of going to talk to the boys probably about my thoughts for the future. But for now, at Your Bliss Pod, you can find all of our backlog of content there. Follow me at Thomas_Ragland, and of course, all of us at anythingbutcredible.com.
Yep, anythingbutcredible.com for all your network needs, including What's Your Bliss, Offended Podcasts, Anything But Credible Podcasts, Going Off Topic Podcasts, Spacing Out, and Movie Merge, and now the Wrestling Wrap-Up Podcast, all at anythingbutcredible.com. Make sure to go check it out. Subscribe to all of those. Give us a 5-star rating, please. Make us some money. We just want to get paid.
Just make us money.
Yeah, just give us all the human money.
All the human money.
Thomas, thank you so much. Let's go Bengals. Hopefully, by the time this airs tomorrow, we will see the Bengals as Super Bowl champions.
We'll be celebrating all night. That's what's going to happen if the Bengals win.
Smoke some stogies like Joe Burrow at LSU. Isn't that where you want? No, did he go to LSU?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Because he spurned Ohio State, the worst place in the world, to go to LSU.
Oh fuck! He wanted to go to like Nebraska, didn't he? And they just kept turning him down.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
And he's like, all right, fine, fuck you. I'm just gonna be the best quarterback ever. Like, aside from
here we are,
not named Tom Brady.
We miss you, Tom.
I do already. Well, anyway, Thomas, thank you so much.
Ricky, thank you.
For Thomas, I'm Tricky. This has been the Wrestling Wrap Up presented by the Anything But Credible Network. We will see you guys when we see you. Peace.